Hello and welcome to the Editing Podcast. We've put together a series of bonus episodes called Point of View, in which we talk directly to authors about their editing and indie publishing experiences.
That's right, and this interview is with Kenda Macdonald. Kenda is a behavioural marketing specialist and CEO of Automation Ninjas. She's also the author of Hack the Buyer Brain. We caught up with Kenda at the Atomicon Digital Marketing Conference in March 2019, and we chatted to her about her writing journey. Here's Kenda. So here we are back at the Atomicon conference in Newcastle, and with us is the lovely Kenda Macdonald of Automation Ninjas. Kenda, do you want to say hello and tell us a little bit about what your business is?
Hello. So I specialise in behavioural marketing automation, and the company that I have created is called Automation Ninjas. And what we do is we help SMEs get really clear on what their strategy is for their customer journeys, and then, if appropriate and where appropriate, to automate parts of that for their marketing automation.
Right, and you have just written a book about this, haven't you?
Yes.
And what's it called?
It's called Hack the Buyer Brain, and it's all about how we evolved as a species to survive and the implications that that kind of evolution has on modern life. So we use parts of our brain that weren't intended for their current use. And so what that kind of does to your marketing and how we should really understand that and be empathic towards that kind of process that our consumers are going through. And so as businesses, what we should be doing to structure that process. So it's bringing all of the kind of behavior from my background in forensic psychology. It's bringing all of the behavior into the marketing process and really giving SMEs an opportunity to understand some of that kind of psychology stuff and then bring that into their marketing and structure their marketing and then automate it.
And you indie published this, didn't you,
Yes.
Kenda? So you did it yourself.
Yes.
So as part of that process, you hired an editor.
Yes, I did.
Perhaps you'd like to say now who that editor was.
It was the lovely Denise.
Denise Carroll.
Yes, and I'm just going to take a step back from this so that I can stay impartial here. But yes, I have had the pleasure of copy editing Kenda's book, which is absolutely fascinating, for I can say anymore. It's really,
I'm looking
I
forward
really
to reading
enjoyed
it.
using it. Yeah.
So Kenda, how did you find Denise?
So, funnily enough, I found Denise through the CMA, so the Content Marketing Academy. So it's a group of like-minded business owners. I'm sure you've spoken about it before. But the reason I kind of hired Denise is I was really, really conscious of the fact that I've read a lot of sort of self-published and indie published books. And one of my biggest worries about being sort of indie published was the fact that some of them really need editing. Some of them, you read them and it's hard to read. It's difficult to read, there's a lot of spelling mistakes, and that's distracting for me as a reader, and I didn't want that to be the case for the readers. So when I kind of found out that Denise was an editor, I saw some of the stuff that she'd been doing for somebody else. I reached out to Denise and said, could you help me please? Because I need this to be good.
And did you, I mean, the fact that you knew Denise as well, you had a sort of online relationship with her, was that a factor in helping jump that trust issue? Because I know certainly a lot of authors I've spoken to over the years, one of the things they say is, I'm really nervous about handing over this precious thing.
Yes.
And actually not just asking someone else to help me improve it, but paying this stranger, giving this stranger money. So trust is an issue.
It certainly did help that I knew Denise as well as I did. I wouldn't say that we probably know one another so much more now.
Absolutely.
So much more having gone through this process. But in the beginning, that it was a trust issue and it was a fear issue. I was really scared. I don't know, Denise probably really felt it, but I constantly needed validation that it wasn't shit what I'd done.
And I don't think that's unusual with indie authors and authors who haven't done much before, had much interaction with showing their work to other people. And I think that's a really important part of the editing process, is to provide that constructive validation and reassurance.
And it's constructive. I didn't just want to hear, it's great. That's not that, because that has it's almost flippant, isn't it? And that wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for, this bit's really good, but we need to kind of maybe look here. And I needed that kind of relationship to be going. So 100%, because I think I would have found it really difficult to find an editor that was sort of sympathetic and empathetic to what I was trying to create and where I was trying to go. And what I found throughout the process was because Denise knew me and she knew the way I spoke in real life, like the best advice I've ever been given was to write how I speak, because that has all of my personality inside it.
Yes. So it's not just like every other marketing book out
exactly.
there. It's absolutely oozing with Kenda.
And so, like, while Denise was editing stuff, she was very sensitively editing it for my personality, and I felt like it was so much easier to do that. Because of the fact that we had that relationship before. Denise had seen me speak. My kind of setup for the book is mostly going to be word of mouth referrals, but it's also going to be from when I speak. People will see me on stage and then they'll go buy the book.
Yeah. So they want to feel almost that they've got Kenda in the room with them, like
exactly.
but on the page, but in the room. Like maybe they can't get to a speaking engagement, but actually she's right here. She's on the page.
That is actually one
Denise
of the feedback. One of the bits of feedback that I got when people were reading the book was like, it's like you're right here with me.
Yeah, that's lovely.
And that was like probably one of the most validating pieces of feedback that I got, and you know, sort of testament to Denise's editing.
Absolutely, and I think that's actually a really great testimonial for good practice editing. And a good practice in terms of author-editor relationship. What you managed to achieve.
And I think having seen Kenda speak and knowing her, but actually having seen her on stage. It was very easy to know how to edit the book. I think if you'd gone to another editor who could potentially have done just as good a job, but they wouldn't necessarily have known what you were like on stage and your personality.
Technically, I think they could have done as good a job.
Technically, a very good job,
grammar and syntax, but actually maintaining the voice and respecting the voice.
They might have been tempted to take a lot more of it out.
Yes. So here's one thing that I actually found was that Denise added bits in. And that was the moment that I was like, she's got it. She's got it, and she's got me. There's sometimes I think I could tell when in the unedited version when I'd kind of had a professional meeting or something, and I'd gone back and written a book because it came across quite bland, and then that kind of sort of happy chatty tone had disappeared. And there were a few bits where you actually added a sentence in and highlighted it and said, how do you feel about this? I wanted to bring this home, or I've put this in its own paragraph because I feel like the way you're talking needs to stand out. And that was the kind of editing that made me feel like she really got who I was as a human being. And so I'm really thrilled with that.
That's a really
what a nice class.
I know. She can come back.
She can.
I think that's a really interesting thing though, because that sort of essence of every writer at some stage in the journey can find situations where you know so much of what's in here that sometimes there might be, just because of, like you say, you're in a different mindset after a meeting where something
tired.
Gets lost. It just
exactly.
doesn't quite get translated, and so the editor's job is to make sure that it stays front and centre.
It's consistent. And I felt like when I was writing it, also because I was writing like in various different places and various different points in time, and I didn't write the book front to end.
No, that's right.
I started with the easiest chapters, and I went to the hardest chapters, and then I did one massive section of the book in 1 week, 14 hours a day, 5 days, which is crazy, and I'll never do that again. but it did get the book finished, And some of my best writing came out of that really concentrated period. But the book doesn't read like that. It doesn't read like there is these giant gaps and stuff. It's to be nicely smoothed out and consistent. So.
Were there any other parts of the editorial process that you took the book through, like proofreading or major structural editing or beta feedback?
Yeah, so I got harassed by a couple of my clients
in a nice way?
Partners in a nice way. Yeah, because they were really desperate to read it. They actually read the unedited version, a couple of them, and that was really great in terms of validation, because there's a couple of them were sales guys, and they were able to, like, sales guys who couldn't. One of them reads books all the time. The other one can't read a book front to cover. Just cannot do it. The one who can't read a book front to cover said I couldn't put it down, which was great.
Amazing.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
He really, really enjoyed it. And then the other sales guy, who is a great partner of ours, and runs a massive agency, so he's also like a business owner and that kind of stuff. He created this massive mind map of the book, because he said there was so much inside it that there's all these different bits, and like he wanted to make sure that he kept all of the information. And so for me, those two bits were great. And then I also got another piece of beta feedback, which was from the edited version, which was also really fantastic. Like really kind of people were like, oh, this is really great. It was a team who read it, a marketing team who read it. And then from the other edited version, I did get one piece of really horrendous feedback, which wasn't a great process to go through. That was really difficult. Yeah, that was the kind of feedback that stops you in your tracks and makes you just want to not do anything.
And so, Kenda, do you think that it was the actual information you were given there that was the problem, or do you think it was the way it was given?
I think it was the way it was given. I had a couple of other people, including Denise, have a look at the stuff, because I don't want to shy away from negative feedback. I did get some little bits of negative feedback in some of the other things as well, and you know what, we worked on that, and the book is better for it. So I'm not the kind of person who's going to shy away from negative stuff. It was the tone of voice that was used, it was the way it was put across, and it was using some analogies that were really quite harsh, and I felt very unnecessary in the terms of feedback. I didn't feel like it was structured feedback. I felt like it was there was some stuff in there that we used.
And I think it's a really important lesson for people to take, is that there was some relevant stuff in there that made us go back and have a look at it again, and we did do a little bit of tweaking and restructuring, not of the actual book but a few other things, but it was the way that it was delivered was it was almost, you could lose the actual positive useful constructive bits inside all the other stuff. So it was careless the way that it was delivered, or rather thoughtless the way it was delivered, without sort of consideration of the consequences of giving feedback in that way.
That's a really positive lesson, I think, there for any editors listening, as well as indie authors. So if you're an indie author and you receive feedback that feels brutal, try not to take it personally, because actually that's not necessarily a reflection of your work. That's a poor reflection on the delivery of the person who you've been working with. A good editor or beta reader should always be thinking about the consequences of the human being who's put so much effort into creating this. So that's a lesson certainly to me and Denise to remember, to how the framing is everything.
Yeah, definitely.
And respect. I think respect. I think that was the thing. There's a couple of really harsh things in there. I actually went off and read Brene Brown's Rising Strong.
Oh right,
after kind of having that, which is all about after failure, how you step up, because that's how I felt when I got it. I felt like I'd failed, and I can't speak for that person's kind of frame of mind when they sent that or anything. I would love to think that wasn't the intention. You
could have just been having a bad day.
We don't know until, and I don't want to get into a discussion about it. Because it's opening myself up to something that right now, when I'm launching the book, I don't actually have time to concentrate on. So I tried by kind of getting other people involved in the process, and specifically by getting Denise involved in the process. Like my team had a look at the stuff, and they were like, okay, can we see any of this, considering we've read the book? What bits can we take out of it? And then when I got Denise involved, considering the kind of industry that Denise is in, having a look at that and really breaking it apart, really dissecting the feedback and going, okay, this is opinion, we can't, that's just opinion, and yes, that sounds harsh, but it doesn't have anything around it, so let's let that bit go, but these are the core little nubs that we can take up from that. So I don't think it was intended personally, but it made a better book in the end.
Well, that's great. That's great. That's really great.
So Kenda, just looking back over the whole experience that you've had of writing a book, self-publishing, being edited, receiving feedback, is there what sort of one piece of advice would you give to indie authors that you think you've gained from your experiences?
I think we're creating a baby. You're creating your own little baby, and it's very easy to shield yourself away, like a wounded animal. You've not even been wounded yet, you just created something and you're scared to kind of put it out there. We're kind of like hiding under a bush somewhere, and we don't want to come out. The only way that I got through the bad parts of this process was with a support network. That is literally it. The dark times where I had somebody tell me that forget about the book, just forget about it, you've got more important things to think about. I've had obviously the negative feedback, which kind of made me just want to hide under my bed and not crawl out. Had I not had people around me, I wouldn't have been able to survive those. So the big piece of advice that I'd love to give to people is, don't hide yourself away when you're doing this process. You have to go and seek it out. It's one of my faults I have to work on, is that I always want everything to be perfect, and I know it's not going to be perfect. So I've been seeking out people that I can surround myself with that will help me get the closest that I can get to. But that does also open you up to things that could sometimes be hurtful. But at the same time, if I hadn't have sought Denise out, and if I hadn't have sought a little group of people that I was writing with, I wouldn't have got through those points. So you've got to make sure you put yourself out there with the right kind of people. And having somebody, I think that was the most important process of having Denise there, was having somebody that I knew who got it, who got the stuff I was writing about, but also got who I was as a person. So when the shit got shit, I could basically step out and be like, I need help. And that was the most. So don't be scared to ask for help, and make sure you surround yourself with a network of people. That's definitely the most important thing.
Thank you so much for talking to us. That's really, really great advice that I think a lot of our listeners are going to get a huge amount from that.
Thanks, Kenda. That was brilliant.
We hope you enjoyed this author point of view. Thank you so much for listening to the Editing Podcast. You can rate, review and subscribe via your podcatcher.
And don't forget to share. Tell your writer friends, your editor friends, your business friends, basically anyone who writes.
And if you have any questions, please do get in touch with us via the Editing Podcast Facebook page. If you ask us, we promise we'll answer.
And we've put all the links mentioned in today's interview in the show notes, so you can grab everything there.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.